Hello guys, welcome to Mall Biolect. So today I'll be talking about statistical mechanics and thermodynamics for viral evolution. Okay. So statistical mechanics allow scientists and physicists to describe macroscopic substances as a characteristic as a multi-particle system based on microscopic properties. So in this video we will be describing the mode of viral replication and evolution within a single host, and my focus will be rather on how the continuous viral progression and also viral mutation is actually weakening the virus, and that is actually good for us. So let's start with a viral infection as an energy barrier. So suppose consider this simple thing. This is one part, this is another part, this is another part. So first the virus infects, okay, then it suppresses the immune response, okay, so immune response is suppressed, and then the last is it replicates, it then evades, and also it in some cases the cell dies. Not some cases, actually all cases cells die. So these are the three steps of the viral infection. So suppose if this is a virus, this virus needs to traverse first of all this block. So you have to jump this first hindrance over here. After jumping this first hindrance, it has to jump the second hindrance over here for the suppression of the immune response. And finally you have to jump again for the replication, evasion and cell death, okay, virus induced cell death. So how these things actually occur, let's talk about that. So first we have to know that how viruses they actually enter the cell. So the viruses they replicate and they transmit by a complex multi-step process. For example, if you take SARS-CoV-2 or for example influenza virion, they infect a cell first of all. So first there is infection, and followed by infection there is the next step, which is it might replicate, okay, and it must first of all, before infecting, it have to bind to the surface. So it has to bind to the surface first, and then it can actually replicate, okay, and after replication it can do all sort of things. So what happens in this initial infection and binding stage? So let's get into that first. So first, a virus, it interacts with the cellular receptor. Once it interacts with cellular receptor, it is endocytosed, okay. This is similar to something known as the RME, or the receptor mediated endocytosis. After it is endocytosed, what it goes through is basically incorporation of its own genome, or in some cases the VRNPs, okay, the viral ribonucleoproteins, okay, and these are actually transferred to the cell cytoplasm, and as it is present in the cell cytoplasm, it goes to the next step for replication. But at each step, these all steps, there is some probability of something known as failure and something known as fitness. So this is failure, this is fitness. So what is probability of failure and fitness? So let's get back to that original model I was talking about with the help of those hurdle crossing by the virus. So in this model, you will see that there is a barrier. If this is a system over here, then in this system, this is an outside particle. And as it is entering the system, it has to first of all cross a barrier to enter in the first step, which is the infection. Then simultaneously it has also to cross these barriers too for the infection and then cell death, or its own replication rather. So the probability of success can be calculated like this, because this virus is going through hurdles. So there is a elevated success to failure rate of any kind of viruses. So if in order to calculate the probability of successes, okay, it can be calculated very easily, and it is that E1 is equal to e to the power of F1 by T, okay. Here this E1, it is the probability of successfully crossing a barrier, okay. E is exponential value, F1 over here is basically the viral fitness, how much fit a virus is, and T is the temperature of the system. Now we will later see that this T over here is very determining factor in different kind of viral infection if you consider the infection as a thermodynamic model. So let's get into that. Now, according to the classical biochemistry, the barrier height, these barriers over here, the barrier height in these cases is a function of both the reactants and the product, while the temperature is a property of reactants, that is only viruses. So when we allow distributions of energy like the classical model, then the effective temperature or the temperature is itself represented as Kb into T, where Kb is known as the Boltzmann's constant. Is the Boltzmann's constant. Okay. So the average energy for the most probable distribution of viral infection, and after infection it passing on to the respective stages, is basically Kb into T. So this you have to remember first. So now making barriers and using the formula, we find that at a very low temperature, when the temperature is very low, only viruses that match the receptors, like in this case the ACE2 receptors, can bind. But at a relatively higher temperature, owing to random bombardment, because at high temperature the particles are randomly moving in the space. We know this in thermodynamic terms. So this shows that virtually all viruses will be able to bind in this kind of cases where the temperature is higher. Thus this shows that the increment of temperature increases the fraction of viable viruses within the quasi-species distribution. So this simply means that the viruses which were actually having perfect match to the receptors, they can bind. But along with that, the others, on increasing temperature, when the temperature is increased, so the viruses which does not have that kind of much binding affinity to the receptor, they can also bind. So this is known as a quasi-species distribution due to temperature. Now a virus binds to a particular receptor, that is followed by receptor-mediated endocytosis in the cell. So there can be more complex arguments derived from the base of receptor fitness and consequent attachment, but let's keep that for other days or other videos. Now one thing that we must consider is that a receptor is a sub-region. For example, if there is a whole receptor, there is a sub-region in the receptor which the virus can actually interact with the help of, for example, the spike protein. If this is a receptor region, so this region is actually interacted by the spike protein of the virus. So it happens like that. Okay. Now these receptors can have different degrees of freedom. To capture these degrees of freedom, we require that a sub-region of a virus gene matches with a complementary genetic receptor target. Specifically, we define, suppose, a 50 letter big target sequence. So a target sequence which is 50 letter big is there in the host cell, and we define that each virus is assigned a genome of 100 letters. Okay, that is 300 bases. Because each letter is basically contributing an amino acid, so basically we are having 300 bases, 3 into 100, simple. So now in this case we define something known as M, a variable, and in here M is as the number of matches between the host and the target sequence at an alignment. And at this alignment, suppose a virus, for example, if this is the receptor of the virus can bind through here, or even through here. Okay, but at a particular point where there is a maximum number of amino acids that are coming into play or attaching properly with the receptor is known as the actual orientation. And these other sequences over here, this one, and also this one, are basically the degrees of freedom for this virus to bind. Okay, so if we are getting this clearly right now, so there is a particular alignment that minimizes total number of mismatches, but still completely overlaps the target. Although we are not going for the dynamic flip-flap model of the ACE2 receptor, which is actually shown practically, but rather a simple viral fitness. So instead opting for this, the viral fitness in this abstraction is completely characterized by the difference in the number of matches. So more the number of matches in this region, more is the ability of the virus to attach to the receptor. So this is known as the viral fitness. So what is the formula of this fitness now? So for this, we have to first of all find out that how much of the matches and mismatches are there. So we can easily find out by using this formula, where in the earlier formula we have used the F1. So here the F1 is equal to Fm. Okay, and this is equal to negative of 50 minus m. Okay, so there is a difference between the number of matches and the length of the genome. This simply is that. Okay, so now if we put that in the original formula, so e to the power m is em is equal to e to the power of minus of 50 minus m by t. So this will be the formula. Thus this barrier crossing changes with each mutation spontaneously. So basically, for the virus to be fit, it has to follow this formula over here. Okay, and also this actually designates the barrier climbing ability. Barrier climbing ability, or we can also say that it is a successfully crossing the barrier. Okay, now after that there is something more to say. In the earlier part of the formula, I have dealt with something known as the M, which here the M is basically the math sequences. Okay, but if we dive a little bit into statistical and mechanistical thermodynamics and basically viral reproduction and mutation in this part, so a viral offspring differ from their parent because of mutation. Now we take this as an what to say, and take this part and insert something known as the fecundity phi. Okay, that is, an offspring will have only one codon mutation per generation. Mutation of same amino acid is allowed, for example, or for your information. Now let's go for the classical biochemical thermodynamics and Modan's model. Okay, so we'll be dealing with now, which is known as the Modan's model for the classical biochemical thermodynamics. So what does Modan's model say? Okay, now in Modan's model, a single mutation can reduce the maximal match length by either del m is equal to -1, where there is a match length is decreasing, where del m may is equal to +1, where the match length is increasing because of mutation, and also del m is equal to 0, although there is a mutation but the match length is not increasing. So these are the three conditions that are there. Now consider a virus with maximum M0 codons. Okay, so M0 codons matching the organism's target genome. We find that sub-regions on the virus genome that contain the maximum number of matches M0 to the target by counting matches for each possible alignment. So for a mutation to decrease M, two conditions must be true. So there are two conditions for this kind of mutations, and that is first condition is that mutation must occur at a currently matched position. Okay, at a currently matched position, mutation must occur there, and must change the expressed amino acid. Although, just for your information, there should be no silent mutations taking place over here. And secondly, there must not be two or more alignments with similar maximum mismatch. Okay, not mismatch, actually match. So no, not two or more alignments with similar kind of match should be allowed in this case. Okay, so taking Modan's argument and above data, three graphs can be plotted. So okay, now when first of all, when we are talking about a highly degenerative target, okay, so when m is equal to +1, the value will lies like this, and at some point it will touch the +1 range. Okay, but when del m is equal to -1, it will be like this. So this one is for +1, this one will be for -1. It will not touch the half value. Okay, the maximum p mutation over here is a probability of mutation which is increasing over this case, and over here we have got the m value. So it will not reach exactly half, but in case of zero mutation, the curve shows like this and shoots just little above the plus half region. Okay, so this is for a highly degenerative target. Now for a medium degenerative target. So in case of medium degenerative target, what happens is that over here, first if we consider the m is equal to +1 value, it will rise and reach somewhere over here. So this one is the +1 graph in this case. For the -1 curve, it will be around the half region, but in case of 0, this will be like this, and this one is for the medium degeneracy of the code. Okay, and next, the lowest degeneracy in this case, it will be just a simple thing, everything will be same, but this should be the 0 point. Okay, and over here the -1 will again touch the plus half region, but the +1 over here will not touch this region, it will be rather this +1 curve. So what do we know from this kind of graphs? So this kind of Moran's curve, what it basically determines is that how much, if there is a matching sequence, okay, so there is a matching or the mismatching of the sequence, then in probability what kind of mutations and what kind of degeneracy you can find in this kind of samples. So let's define a target genome. Okay, for example, our target genome is like this, it's a word, not the, this is the entry target for regular cells way of entering it. So it has a 16 of 26 possible codons, and the maximum degeneracy of this whole sequence I have written over here is 7 and a length of 50. So for a virus of length 100 and given this particular target genome sequence, analytical calculations may be derived, and the probability of mutation in this kind of viruses, if we consider the first case where m is equal, actually del m I should write, del m is equal to -1 will be omega into m by 100 by 1 plus e to the power of minus m minus 10 by 2. Okay, and the probability of mutation where del m is equal to +1 is equal to omega by 235.45 into e to the power of 4.709. The values I am showing over here comes from other calculations, but I don't think that I should cover that because it's more complex, so let's leave that. -1. Okay, and the probability of mutation when del m is equal to 0 is equal to 1 minus p mut when del m is equal to +1 minus p mut when del m is equal to -1. Here the p mut is probability of virus, probability of mutation of a virus with m matches, which will result in change in m of del m is equal to 0 to plus or -1. So the variable omega over here represents a redundancy of omega is equal to 0.7867. Basically it's a redundancy in the underlying genetic code due to the multiplicity of the 3 codons combination that define an amino acid. So basically this is the redundancy because of the 3 codons. So now coming to all these things and all the formulas combined, what I am trying to say? What I am trying to say in simplest term possible is that temperature affects the viral binding first. Mutation, if the mutation has got many mismatches or if the degrees of freedom change, there is a probability of viral evolution which we are seeing in case of SARS-CoV-2. Just I am determining everything mathematically in pen and paper or board or marker, whatever. And over here what I am trying to prove is viral evolution through thermodynamics rather. So what will so I have just showed you one equation in the very start, so let's recall that right now. So this was the formula. Here we are trying to calculate the barrier crossing efficiency or the success rate of the barrier crossing. So this was the barrier crossing efficiency we have found using our own formulas and everything. Now over here, the term M, which I am showing over here, is basically the number of matches between the host and the target sequence. So you will find that in these kind of cases, temperature is over here. So temperature plays a critical role in the barrier crossing efficiency. If temperature is very much higher, the barrier crossing efficiency also increases. Okay, so the EM is basically increases. Now, in case of mismatch, if this M over here, this particular M I am talking about, if this matches, okay, between the target sequence that is in the host and in the viral sequence that is present in the virus only, virus spike proteins for example in case of SARS-CoV-2, if these things are very much higher or these matches are very much higher, then it shows it has got a greater barrier crossing ability basically. So, but is this thermodynamically feasible? Now here comes the point. Thermodynamically feasible, if we are talking about this, it is not feasible. Now why it is not feasible? Because first of all, in this kind of barrier crossing events, in practical life there is a much variation in the genome, and usually I have told about that del M is equal to +1, del M is equal to -1 that I have showed. In these cases we find that maximum thing that del M is equal to -1 is happening, and as del M is equal to -1 is very much favorable in these cases, the virus, if it evolves in so much rate, then it will be at a time become impotent. Okay, so it will not be able to infect anymore. So this was my conclusion to this entire video of viral evolution using genetics. If you want, I can also explain the viral life cycle into using statistical mechanics and thermodynamics if you want. So if you want, you can please comment down below. Also, if you find any kind of problem in this video, you can comment down below. I will explain if I can, or if I will study later on that part. Also, if you like this video, then entire conclusion of this video is this simply, that once you are going through this kind of transitions where first the virus is infection phase, then it's evading the immune responses. So this part is known as a phase transition, PT. Okay, and as this phase transition is occurring, this basically known as in the statistical, in thermodynamical terms, known as the first phase transition. Okay, and during this first phase transition, it has to jump actually two barriers. Okay, one barrier over here, one barrier over here, and while jumping two barrier, okay, what happens is that in genetic coding there is something known as the error catastrophe. And as this error catastrophe happens, what it does is that there is something with the fidelity of replication, and this fidelity of replication is entirely disbalanced right now because of two things. Okay, first it was trying to invade, which is actually helped by the temperature, but in the later part of immune evasiveness or suppressing the immune system, what happened is that there was a fidelity of replication that occurred. Okay, this happens in every viral systems, and it is also very much prominent in SARS-CoV-2. Okay, so as this thing happens, there is a particular critical point. Okay, so I was talking about that graph, those graphs, right? So also apart from that graph, there is something known as the M value. The M value, if it approaches 1.0, it's basically an ordered state. But as the M value is less than 1.0, it basically becomes a disordered state. And for this kind of phase transition, first phase transition, the M is usually less than 1.0, and that causes the fidelity of replication, and that causes the virus to be inactivated, as because there is a critical point in the fidelity. There is a critical point. So this critical point we can also say as TC, for example. So once while replication, the virus actually, it crosses this critical point of viral fidelity of replication, what happens is that the entire genome that is made, it contains different mutations in the sequences. It contains different mutations in the sequences, and as a result of which the virus total is inactivated. So In this video, I taught you about the viral invasion using statistical thermodynamics. I have shown you how the virus replicates and how the mismatch and match oriented crossovers are happening within the host cells and the virus cells. And also at last, I am telling you that how these kind of things are actually helping in virus inactivation. So this system, as it is more and more towards mutations, it will at a time point, will cross this critical point of mutation, and at particular that point only the virus will be inactivated. Okay, so this is entirely based on statistical maths and everything. This actually is derived from a paper which I will provide a link. Actually not one paper, it's a mixture of different papers. I will give you 2 references in the comment section. And if you have any suggestions, if you like this video, then please like this in my channel, share this video with your friends and colleagues, and also subscribe to my channel. Your subscription is very much important to me. Okay, and all, please, if you have any kind of doubt or if you have any kind of confusion, write to me in the comment section. I will deal with it. Okay, but before everything or all that kind of those sorts, please understand that this virus is going to die out essentially, but it needs some time, and that time can be only given by lockdown. Okay, so stay at home, stay safe, and also just hope that it quickly ends. Okay, Boy Elect is out, Ankit Kumar Nath is out, and please subscribe. Bye.